The American Southwest. A dry, seemingly barren desert which over the last several centuries and beyond has been home to people as determined to carve a life out of the sandstone and dry ground as the winds of the region. These people go by many names. Today, 3 stand out against a brutally mainstream culture. They are the Hopi, the Navajo, and the Pueblo. Each of these groups of Native Americans has a culture inherently their own which occupied their own time. They were individually prominent across centuries and remember their history and tradition today. One might ask, though, since they appear to come from the same landscape, are their cultures similar? Are their religions related? Let us look at them individually and compare the religions of these groups. Perhaps the landscape has a profound effect on the way these cultures develop their belief systems. Or perhaps it goes much deeper to the core of a people than the environment they arise from. The Hopi. The Hopi Indians occupy the region of northern Arizona and have for centuries, as evidenced by this, the Arabi Pueblo, the oldest continuously occupied dwelling in the New World. The Hopi religion, like many Native American religions, is closely tied to nature and the creatures which make appearances in their daily lives. They believe their religion is practical and ceremonial. They do not separate their religious life and daily life. They believe in an origin story where humans arose from the underworlds into the present one, and they believe in and worship many gods and deities who represent different aspects of their lives. The Hopi religion has certain principles on which it is based. These principles are: nature and God are one, unchangeableness. This means that the universe and nature are absolutely reliable. Duality, and the presence of a spirit being in each object, like rocks, trees, animals, and water, to name a few. Because they do not separate their religious life from their daily life, their religion is very practical. They see everyday things, like weaving and farming, as a religious experience. These everyday experiences allow for a connection with their ancestors and reactualizes the time before time. Take farming, for instance.
The Hopi feel that when they farm as their ancestors did, the past is made present. For Hopi, farming techniques were first established by the god Masao when the Hopi emerged to the Fourth World. Their experience of the emergence is practical, for it was then that the proper farming techniques were taught by the Masao. Moreover, their return to the time before there was time renews the world, a religious experience of no small practical importance.
The Hopi worship quite a pantheon of gods, with 7 main ones. There are many other gods that the Hopi worship which are none as important. The main ones are Kutakinangwa, the all-powerful creator of the earth; Muingwa, guardian of life; Natamsi, creator of life; Bahulinkanga, a great serpent which controls lifeblood, vegetable sap, and especially water; Masau, death, the destroyer, and cause of all metamorphosis; Omau, god of clouds and rain; and Dewa, the son or father. These gods are worshipped in a series of ceremonies which occur throughout the year. Some of them are at set times, such as for certain harvests or solstices. Other ceremonies are done when the religious organizations in control of them decide to do them. This worship is facilitated by animistic spirits called Kashinas. Kashinas are an integral feature of Hopi religion. They are represented in religious ceremonies by dancers in costume, who believe they become the spirit when they don the traditional garb. There are approximately 30 major Kashinas which participate in the 5 major ceremonies, although there are numerous Kashinas and many ceremonies. The 5 major ceremonies are the winter solstice, Pamuya, bean ceremony, water serpent ceremony, and Niman, or homegoing ceremony. All of the ceremonies bring a legend or myth of the Hopi cosmogony to life. The Hopi mythology, like all mythologies, contains stories about the beginning of the people and the gods they worship. The Hopi mythology has legends like the Emergent story and the story of the Snake and Horn people, a story about a young man who goes on a journey. Some characters which play major roles in these stories are Coyote, Spider-Woman, and her 2 sons, and several bird characters, Many of the characters which are present in Hopi mythology are also stock characters in much of the mythology of other Native American tribes. Let us now take a look at the emergent story as told by Harold Corlander in his book, The Fourth World of the Hopis. The emergent story claims that the human race started as insect-like beings in one world called the First World. The story continues as they journey to different worlds and change forms with each new world until they reach the Fourth World where they now live. The people who emerged into the present world then were divided into different tribes. Each tribe had the opportunity to pick a corn which would represent the type of lives they would live as a tribe. The Hopi chose short blue corn, which they were told would give them lives of work and hardship, but long lives. The different tribes then left the site of their emergence to find the place where they would live. The Pueblo. The Pueblo people are located in the same general area of northern Arizona as the Hopi. Their religion and lifestyle are also very similar to the Hopi Indians. This can be attributed to the fact that the Pueblo and Hopi are both descendants of a group called the Anasazi. The Pueblo religion is also based on nature and the spirits found there. They find deep meaning in the landscape and consider it to be sacred. Their religion embodies astronomical aspects in their use of the heavenly bodies to determine times of worship. They have a mythology like other Indians with an origin story and myths of the original people, and they worship many gods. Because the environment of the Pueblo people is extremely dry and the Pueblo economy was based mainly on the growing of corn, the Pueblo depended greatly on the rain gods for their survival. Although there were many other gods the Pueblo worshipped, the rain gods were among the most important. For the Pueblo, there are 4 rain gods called the Shiwana. Each individual Shiwana is associated with a cardinal direction, season, and color. The origin story speaks of other gods, including a great spirit named Sichtinako, Yuchtsiti, the creator of the world, Shakak, the spirit of winter, Muratieme, the spirit of spring, Mayochina, the spirit of the summer, and Shrusthia, the spirit of fall. The origin story also speaks of the creation of many other spirits, called collectively the Kasina. These gods are worshipped in ceremonies which consist of dancing, singing, and prayer. The Pueblo also find great importance in the cloth used in the ceremonies. It is a part of their ancestral culture, and they use the hand-woven and embroidered cloth to bring special honor to the spirits being worshipped. The ceremonies are performed at certain times during the year, depending on the spirit being worshipped or what is being asked for. The mythology of the Pueblo has a number of myths, including the origin story, the story of the cliff dwellers, and the story of the nomads. These stories include characters from nature and the spirits embodied in animal forms. They have many myths about their beginnings, including their origin story. Let us briefly look at the origin story laid out by the Pueblos of Acoma from Matthew Sterling. The story begins with 2 women who were born into a world underneath the earth. They emerge from this world by growing a tree, which breaks a hole in the earth, which they are able to climb and emerge from the underworld. They see light for the first time and are instructed to worship the sun. They are given baskets from which all living things are to be created, and eventually these women bring life to the earth through the things found in the basket and multiplying the human population. Spirits are created and rules for their religion are laid out, including the instructions of building kivas. The Pueblo people have been around for centuries and can trace their histories back to around 500 BC, when their ancestors, desert hunter-gatherers, were present. We find evidence of this through archaeological studies of the northern regions of Arizona, where even now the Pueblo people make their lives. We can also see that they went through a flourishing of culture and were at their height between the 11th and 13th centuries. Through these studies, we are able to observe the architecture of the people and discover more about their religion. One thing that has been discovered about the architecture is that there are some ties to the Pueblo religion. The Pueblo worshipped things of nature, and their building is an extension of that.
They are nature, pure and simple, but their resemblance to the shapes of the earth is not accidental entirely either. It is at once an act of reverence and a natural congruence between 2 natural things.
Another extension of their religion in their architecture is their kivas. Kivas are sacred places where the Katsina abide. The instructions for building them were laid out in the origin story. They were to be in the ground, with a ladder leading to a hole in the ceiling. All of this was done to represent Shipapu, the place of emergence from the underworld to the present world. The Navajo. The Navajo people, much like the Hopi and the Pueblo, find home in the area of northern Arizona and New Mexico and southern Utah. This is significant because the Navajo people are descendants of a different language group than the Hopi and Pueblo, Na-Dene. Yet they occupy the same area. Archaeological evidence suggests that they have been in this region for hundreds of years and definitely by the late 1400s. According to Peter Iverson, author of The Navajo Nation, it is quite likely and evident that the Pueblo tribe of the region has had a significant impact on the social systems of the Navajo. Let us look at their religion and see if that influence carried into that aspect of their life. The Navajo religion is less a religion than it is a way of life. The Navajo do not separate religious from daily action and believe that their actions are the cause of downfall or good fortune. If something goes wrong in the world, the Navajo believe that it was due to the action of some man or men which upset the balance of the universe. The belief is that any misconduct against the universe can upset the whole balance and cost their life or more. They view their religion more as acting in accordance to the laws of the universe than obeying a god's commands. Singing plays an important role in Navajo life. People sing songs throughout their daily life, either sacred or semi-sacred, to bring blessings or protection or rain upon the singer, their household, or the herds, among other things. Singing is done in association with daily tasks, along with rituals. It is a ceremony in and of itself and is used in conjunction with other ceremonies. Such ceremonies are sings, which consist of a professional singer singing over an ailment of a member of the community. Girls' sings, which celebrate a girl entering womanhood, and other ceremonies of worship. Sweat lodges also consist of singing cycles. The Navajo have a complicated mythology from which it is difficult to extrapolate definite gods and spirits, although some are well known. The mythology does, of course, contain an emergent story, which is both similar to and different from that of the Hopi and Pueblo origin stories, along with other stories of holy figures like the story of Bear Woman, A World of Eagles, and the Sacred Sisters. Characters like Coyote and Bear Woman are prominent in these stories, which the Navajo see as a kind of Bible. Although the system of deities is a difficult one to understand and does not recognize the existence of one supreme being, there are some which are fairly easy to recognize. These are the gods of most importance and are only a few. Toso Hanoi, the sun-bearer, his father, Klahanoi, the moon-bearer, Changing Woman, the embodiment of nature and the daughter of first man and woman, her sons, Monster Slayer and Born of Water, known by some to be gods of war and also known as the Hero Twins, and White Shell Woman, the sister of Changing Woman. These two are depicted as one entity in some myths. The origin story tells of holy people in the lower worlds. These are collectively known as the Ye.
Each one is associated with the specific natural features of the land, with other Yi, and with aspects of the weather, vegetation, mineral deposits, and with certain animals.
The Ye include Coyote, a god of mischief, first man and woman, racing gods, talking god, salt woman, sun, and house god. There are many views and ideas about what actually goes on in the Navajo emergence story. Some say that altogether there are 6 worlds, this being the 5th into which people emerged, and then there is another one beyond this one. Some accounts claim there are 8 worlds, and even some say there are 12, although all agree that the present world is the 5th. The Navajo people moved through the lower 4 worlds as they were pushed out by evildoers, and along the way many creatures were created. The people changed form with each world, and first man and woman were created from 2 ears of corn in the last and present world, where all natural objects were formed. It is easy to see the similarities between these 3 tribes and their religions. We are able to draw distinct parallels in the emergent stories, noting things like commonalities of the way in which the people came to Earth. Also, Earth is the top or surface in all of these myths. All of these tribes worship the sun, all of their religions are tied to nature, and most of the myths have similar characters based on animals and creatures found in nature. One conclusion we can draw from the religions of these tribes is that they are all focused in some way on receiving rain for their crops and their own survival. This seems to be a direct result of the environment from which they arose. I would say that although these tribes each have their own take, their religions are too similar to ignore. They have influenced each other over centuries of occupying the same region of the country, and the region has influenced them in a way that is undeniable.